Hey, everybody, welcome back. I am Coach Kiana,
And I'm therapist Danielle,
and we are The
the
Real
real
on
on
Parenting.
parenting.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Danielle, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I feel like I haven't talked to you since the last show.
Right.
Thank
Right.
you. Yeah, I feel like I'm missing something in between these shows.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
goodness. What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about teaching respectful behaviors.
Let's go.
Right. So with that being said, we I was about to say we all know what respect is, but I can say that we don't. We don't. A lot of people have contingencies on respect, and you really don't necessarily know what those contingencies are until a situation happens. But let's just say for the base that for a child to a parent, there are certain behaviors that we are okay with. There are
Right.
certain behaviors that we are not okay with. And with that, I'm gonna let you know you put yourself on mute. So with
Now,
that,
see, I was clearing my throat because no, see, now I gotta let the audience know. I was choking before
oh, see? Okay, well, let me let
before
you
we
take it
started.
from.
So I just mute
Okay.
myself. So one, because I'm not home alone, right? So when the kids are in the house, you just never know what random noise is gonna happen. But two,
Right.
I was trying to clear my throat
My
because
apologies.
I was
My
choking
bad.
before we started, and Danielle was fussing at me, and
I was.
now she acted like, I just muted myself because I'm being rude, and I'm not. Like, let's
Oh,
just.
that's too funny. Well, I'm glad that,
I'm
that
trying not
you're
to have
good.
that
You're good.
phlegm in my throat while I'm
You're
trying to
good.
talk.
All right.
Yeah, please continue, ma'am.
But okay. But with the respectful behaviors, though, I want to be very clear regarding consistency. There are a lot of parents who disregard certain behaviors in one instance and then discipline the same behavior in another instance or environment or around certain people. In one,
Right,
it has to be consistent across the board. So if
right.
you do not allow your child, and I'm using random examples, if you do not allow your child to say dang when you're out and about, but however, your child is saying dang like it's within their normal vocabulary at
At
home,
home, right.
you don't, that's not teaching your child what's okay and what's not okay, or what's acceptable and not acceptable. In my house, and I say dang because me growing up, my mom associated dang with damn.
Yep.
For me,
And you
I
couldn't say
wasn't saying
neither one of
damn.
them.
I wasn't saying damn. But here I am with my child who she's saying dang. And I'm like, what did you say? And I actually had to reel myself in. So I had to say, okay, is this a me thing from when my mom used to say this to me, or am I actually okay with this wording in the context that my child is using in it?
Right.
And the answer was, I'm not okay with it because it's by way of damn, you know. So there's that clear understanding because it was communicated that this specific behavior, no matter where we are or who we are with or who's present or not present, is not acceptable and it's not okay.
I think a lot of parents like they don't really care, but they know that it's not socially acceptable in some places,
I
right?
agree.
So like
I agree.
growing up, we had a friend who was allowed to use all the profanity, and his mama didn't care if he was at school or at
Oh,
home, right? So,
oh.
and I remember asking her, like, you allow them to cuss? She said, as long as they're not cussing at me, it's just words. And I was like, that is very interesting. And I
That's a
remember
different view, to say the least.
right. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm gonna ask my mama and my dad about this. And then I just went on and said no because like, I know who my parents are. I just met this
Right.
lady. I'm not about to,
Right.
have my mother gather all the fabric from my shirt up under my chin. Somebody
Right.
know what I'm talking about. When they
Right.
grab all that fabric under your from your shirt up under your chin, and then they get real close, and you feel the heat from their nostrils pushing your skin back. Yeah, I wasn't gonna try it. I wasn't.
But it's that, but that is true though. And then, but what I and when I share and speak, I am speaking from a professional level. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and so some of the scenarios that I'll be pulling from are scenarios that are real and reasons why parents have sought out therapy for their children and or for themselves for parenting or family
Yes.
therapy. But some parents are real quick to act brand new when, like you said, example, you had a friend or associate, whoever he was to you at that time, but who could cuss the moon out, you know,
Right.
and his mom perceived it just, it's just words. But there are some parents where they're out and about and he gets to cussing at mama or around mama,
Ooh,
and it's
child.
not okay. And that overall is not okay. You cannot allow certain behaviors in certain circumstances or situations and not in others. It needs to
Right.
be the same across the board. That when a parent does that, it creates a lot of confusion for the child and what's okay and what's not okay, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
Absolutely.
It makes me think of there's a time where, so did my mom allow me to cuss? No, she did not. Or use profanity if people don't know what cussing is. So I'm just saying everybody communicate differently. But no, she did. She did not. However, I knew how to stand up for myself if I needed to. Okay. So I was in junior high. I went to a predominantly white Christian school. And there was another white male student who said something to me that was really disrespectful and inappropriate. Of course, he said it in a way and in a tone that no one else heard, but I heard it. It was directed to me. So before I said what I said was a coined term, I said what I said, but it was for everybody to hear. And so the teacher pulls me aside because now I'm the problem child student, quote unquote. Right. And he says, "Oh, does your mother speak that way?" And I
not
said,
questioning Miss Donna's language skills.
Miss Donna.
Okay.
I said, "Oh, but that's before y'all know her as Miss Donna." But anyway, that's when she met Jesus. But anyway, that's another story. But I said, in general, no. However, comma, if someone tries her, disrespects her, approaches her in a way that's not okay, and she needs to defend herself to some extent, yeah, she cuss. If you call her right on the phone right now, tell her what happened, guess what you gonna hear? And I told him what he gonna hear. And he said, "Oh, okay." And he walked away.
I'll wait for you to say he called her and heard the same words that you told me he was going to hear. That's what I was waiting on.
But the thing is, that was not a behavior that I default displayed. You know, someone said something to me. So granted, I've never told my mom that story. If I tell her that now, all in my big 40-ish years, she still would be like, "What?" And then I tell her the rest. And she'll be like, "Okay, you know."
But I'm about to text her right now because what we're not gonna do is let her find out I knew and didn't tell her, and now she on the phone with my mama because they y'all, them two ladies.
But the point of it is that the kid, your child, should be very clear and understand what behaviors that are allowed and are not allowed within your household. And that is by way of that communication and that explanation. A lot of parents feel they don't need to explain anything to a child. If you don't explain, how are they going to understand?
Right.
They don't have osmosis. They're not thinking what you're thinking. It ain't going to, no. You need to explain and be very thorough on what is okay and what's not okay. Absolutely. And explain to them why. So they have that proper understanding, like, okay, I don't do this because this is disrespectful to a person in general. They need to have that understanding.
So when we're thinking about teaching that respectful behavior, I think that a lot of times parents need to model the respectful behavior, right? Because
Yes.
what you do speak so loud, your children don't even hear what you
Yes.
say, right? So I can tell my daughter, this is what I want you to do. If I never model that for her, she's just gonna do what she sees because
Yes.
words don't have impact without action, right? And
Yes.
so I think that that is a major thing. A lot of parents and teachers, right? Because that's I let me tell you, I knew how Kayla's teachers were behaving by how she played with her dogs when she would play
Oh,
school.
wow. Wow. Yeah, that is
There
a
was
telltale.
yes. And so there were some dolls that, particularly with this one teacher, the boy dolls, Kayla would treat them really bad.
Mm.
And I had to hold on now. So let's have a conversation. What's
Right.
going on? Is that how your teacher talks to them? Just the bad boys, right? Well, what how does she talk to the bad girls?
Right.
Right?
Right.
There are
Yes.
no bad girls. And that told me that that teacher was a problem. And I remember growing up and my brother having a teacher who was wonderful to me because we were in the same class. We went to Catholic school
Mhm.
for a couple of years, but she was horrible to him.
Mhm.
Like nothing he did was okay. And that was a
Poor
trigger for me. So
thing.
I was like, yeah, let me go sit in
Yeah.
this classroom a couple of times. But I had to like low key let the parents know, hey, just so you know, the way she's speaking to your child. And then I had to just talk to the teacher and the principal. This is what I'm observing. And this is not
Yes.
okay. Like you, as a parent, I don't want my daughter seeing this. I don't care that you're not talking to my daughter like that. I don't want her
Right.
witnessing this. I don't want her thinking
Yes.
it's okay to speak to her male counterparts in this manner.
Yeah.
So it's not just parents, it can be teachers.
Right.
But Kayla would be kind of rough with some of them. And wait a minute. Did you pop a student? Did your teacher put her hands on you? Let
Right.
me know. Let me know.
Right.
Mommy will stop that foolishness today. I know it's
Right.
Saturday. I will stop it
Right.
today. Right. Um, and so we have to be mindful because a lot of times our kids are mimicking the winning behavior.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So if there's a
Yes.
parent that gets mad and they cuss and they start throwing stuff, when they're in school, they model that behavior because that's
Mhm.
the behavior that wins at home. It must be the
Yes.
behavior that wins everywhere. And so
Yes.
in their minds, they're just trying to win. And we
Yeah.
have to be mindful about that.
Yes. Yes. And something that I tell a lot of my parents is what you do, your kids will show it.
Yep.
They will show it. Granted, some will actually have words with it, but they will show it. So, like Coach Kiana was saying, what you do, how you deal with your feelings, your emotions, how you communicate, how you deal with problems, how you show your joy, everything
Yes.
is watched by your children because you are the teacher, you are the guide of life, of all things, big and little. And so if you shut down and don't, you shut it all the way down when you're upset, or even if you're sad, but then you're expecting your child to talk to you or communicate when they're having a hard time with their feelings, where has that been modeled for them?
Right.
Where have they seen that happen to even know how to even do that? And a lot
Yeah.
of parents say, but I'm their mom, I'm their dad. And my response is, so that
Right.
is a word. What have you do? What do you do? What do you do when you're sad? What do you do when you're mad, when you're frustrated? And then I'll point out
Absolutely.
that for our kids, remember when supersize was a thing at McDonald's? They were
Mhm.
supersize it on you, okay? Because they'd be
Yeah.
like, I've never seen, I don't even let that in my house because outside the house, that's where the supersize come in. Because mom and daddy, whomever, ain't there. So they supersizing it. So you may not be doing that, but if they doing big bag and you, then mom and dad, you need to pipe it down.
Right.
But it's a telltale that there are things that you need to work on for you, not as mom, not as dad, not as parent role, as you as an individual first, so that you can model to your child how to navigate these feelings, how to, because of the behaviors aspect comes down to the feelings, to be honest.
Yes.
What do I do with these feelings? Who can I actually go to? Because sometimes it may not be mom or dad.
Right.
And then when it's not mom or dad and they don't have anyone, then they feel alone. Then it's bottling
Yes.
up.
Absolutely. And
So,
then, oh,
and
go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say, so those are things you just have to keep in mind in regards to being honest with yourself, because we're all not perfect. We all have those things, we all have those triggers. And how do we typically deal with that? I used to go on mute status. Okay. I always have you questioning your existence. Like I know I'm here. I'm pitching myself. I would really have you. But my view was, it's better for me to not say anything at all than to really say what I'm thinking. But didn't
Right.
realize the impact, the negative impact me shutting down. That's in the day what it was had on my family.
Yes.
So I had to work on me when it came to those specific things that triggered me, where I would just shut down. I'm like, no, no, ma'am, no. And I had to do something different because I saw in my family and in my kids that bits and pieces, they were doing bits and pieces of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that we also have to do a better job at reinforcing positive behavior, right?
Yes.
When we are praising our children when they show respectful behavior, right? A lot of times we go, well, I'm not rewarding you for what you're supposed to do.
To do right.
But
Ooh,
as,
girl, you took me back with
as
that
an
one.
adult
Yes.
though, when I'm doing a good job at work, I expect to be compensated. I expect
I'll
to
say my
get
3%.
employee of the, say
Yes,
that
give me
again.
my percent.
Give me my percent. But having like employee of the year, when if you're in a relationship, no, you don't expect someone to praise you for walking in the house and speaking. But when your spouse is constantly doing the dishes or constantly making sure
Right.
dinner's on the table, they do want a kiss. They do want somebody. They do
That
want you, not
acknowledgement.
somebody. They want you to come
You
in and go,
right.
babe, I just appreciate it. Like I love
Yes.
that, I can come home and know that my dinner's on the table. I know that when I come home, I know that, the homework is done, that the laundry is done, that, the kids are getting their bath or whatever the case may be. I know that, I'm always going to have, a spot on the couch to watch the game during
Right.
playoffs or whatever the case may be. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, I don't have to do those things, but
Right.
it's great. I'm going to make sure when I know you appreciate it, I'm going to make sure that I constantly do them. Children are the same way. That is just reinforcing positive behavior.
Yes. Yes. It
Positive
is.
reinforcement can help children learn the importance of showing respect. Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if we're
Yes.
never telling them like, you know what, great job on how you communicated that to your grandma. Great job on standing up for yourself, but saying it
Yes.
in a way that it was received appropriately, right? Like
Yes.
all of that matters. Like I think so often we just get so used to, yeah, I let my kid tell them off. Well, how did that help? Because
Right.
now when they're telling you off and you confused and they're like,
Yes.
well, that's how I handle everybody.
Right.
Right. And then we get
Right.
them cliches. That's just how I am. It don't have to be.
So yes, that's another.
It
Yes.
doesn't have to
Right.
be.
Right. Right. And then I was gonna say that when you have, or no, not when you have, when your child makes a difficult decision, granted they're growing up, so they're going to have many difficult decisions. Basically, is the right decision, is not the one that typically want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledge that, because within that there's truth and there's honesty, and this is appropriate behavior.
Absolutely.
So, and it can be as simple as good job on doing the dishes without mommy or daddy even having to tell you to do it.
Yep. Yep.
It can
Because
be you telling your
kids
kid to
live
pick
for
up.
praise.
Right. I would say it can be also as simple as, I told you to pick up the socks, so thank you. It's like, why am I thanking them to do it? Because your child chose to do the right thing. They could have easily not answered at all, kept it there, or could have said okay and left it there. They chose to follow through. So yes, that is a great point. Yes, acknowledging the fact that they did what was right. And that also helps with them discerning or determining between okay behaviors and not okay behaviors.
Absolutely.
And wanting to do it more, not because they get joy out of it, but just because that validation aspect as well, as that they would get from, or they can get from, their parent.
Yes. And then I think from my experience with young people, they feel so criticized for everything. And I think so often we criticize our children without asking them why they acted out in the first place. What would make you be so disrespectful? What would make you respond in this way? Right. And so that we can help them understand their
Yes,
behavior and find
yes,
positive solutions. Oftentimes we go, they know better. They know better. Well, but they didn't do better. And let's just be honest. We
yes,
know a whole bunch of adults that know better and don't do better. We know a whole bunch of adults
right.
who have had affairs. We know a whole bunch of adults who have
Yes,
stolen things. We know, like, come on, let's
yes,
not act as though they
right,
know better.
right.
And you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
if we're honest with ourselves, we know better than to do a whole lot of stuff that we do.
Things right, right,
So,
right.
at what point do we look at our teenagers and go, "You're not perfect"? And I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. My mom has to remind me a lot. Like Kiana, she's 9, because having conversations with Caleb, you really
Yes,
will be like,
yes. She's not
mentally,
even in
you're like,
elementary school, okay?
right,
So,
right. You know what I'm saying? So there are so many days where I forget that I'm talking to a 9-year-old
sure,
because our conversations are
right.
very much on the level, right?
Yes,
And then I have to
yes.
go, okay, I'm always conscious that I'm talking to my child, but I'm not
Hmm.
always conscious that she's only 9. Because I
Yes.
remember I was doing some coaching, I was getting coaching. And I had told her before, it started, like, hey, mommy's going to be on the call. And she came to talk to me about something. And I stopped her and I said, is this urgent? And she said, no. And I said, okay, remember when mommy said, if it's not urgent, you have to self manage. And she was like, okay, okay, I'll go self manage. And then when you off, you come back. And I'm like, because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, I didn't pay this lady $1,200. Like, I need to pay attention. Right. But
Right.
she said, you know what? You just had a very adult conversation with your child. And she was like, and
Yes.
I don't know if I should be praising you for it or cussing you out about it. And I was like, well, go
That's
ahead
a
and
good
choose the
response
praise.
too.
Choose the praise, because you like, yeah, let's not get the cussing out and carrying on. But but I understood what she meant.
What you were
You're
saying.
telling, because
Yeah.
at the time Taylor was 7, so you just had
Do it.
a conversation saying self-manage, but she knows what
Yeah, I was saying.
self-management is.
Yes, yes,
That's not
yes.
something I expected her to know. That's something I have taught her
Right,
over the
right,
years. Like, because during the pandemic, I still had to work. I'm working from
right.
home,
Yeah,
and the way my
right.
ADD is set up, the minute she came and asked me a question, because her teacher was only online 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon. The rest of the
Wow.
day, if she had a question, I had to be the one.
That's
So
wow.
by the time I get settled into my stuff, she asks a
Mhm.
question. It might take me another 20 minutes to get back to that spot. Now that might not be the technical clinical term of ADD, but whatever it was, it stopped me from getting, and I had to restart every time. And so
Right, right,
sometimes in that whole day, I've only done like 2 or 3 things that should have taken me 15 minutes, but they took me 6 hours.
right, right,
So
right.
I
Yeah,
needed her to learn how to self-manage. So I had to teach her,
yeah.
if it's not
Hmm.
urgent. So let's talk about what urgent is. Let's talk about
Hmm.
what an emergency is, and let's talk about what important is. So if it's not
Right.
urgent, you got to self-manage. If it's important, you can write me a note, right?
Hmm.
But like, don't expect me to understand it
Respond.
and respond in the
Yes,
moment. Like, sometimes I have to get to a certain point, then I can go, oh, okay, you're hungry. Okay, got
yes,
it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh,
yeah.
okay, you're on recess and this is the time for your snack, and I didn't pull
Right.
one out. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And then that made me
Yeah.
get better at the timing. Let me make sure I
Right.
do my things so that when
Right.
she's on those breaks, she can get it without interrupting me, because I still got to
Yes.
get my work done, right?
Hmm.
But it took time to learn
I
that
would say that
skill.
takes time. Yes, but I'll also say it's kind of like it was a process. What you just
Yes.
explained was a process. It wasn't all at once. It wasn't upfronted, all slammed or yelled at like you're supposed to know this, and then you running down this whole list of things that they're supposed to know. No, it was a
Mhm.
process. There was conversations. There was explanations. Then there was practice, and that's
Yes.
the and practice being implementation. It was figured out. They practiced it, tweaked it, modified it, or whatever needed to be done on mama end and child end or
Right.
daddy end. So when it comes down to in regards to the behaviors of your child, but you being mindful and aware of how you're managing yourself. So
Yes.
let me say this. If your child has done something or has a pattern of doing something that's a problem, and I'm doing quote unquote, air quotes, quotations, I want you to ask yourself, how do I typically handle those type of situations? How does his or her, my child's dad or my spouse or whomever is adult figures in your child's life, how do they typically respond or handle those type of situations? And then see if there's a pattern.
Yep.
See if there's a pattern. And I guarantee you it's that behavior came from some adult. More times than not, it's the parent. I'm sorry, parents, okay? But more the times than not, it's you. You are the problem. You're trying to fix the problem by way of your child when you're the sore. You need the peroxide, okay?
All while not the peroxide, all while discouraging open communication. Like, we have to encourage that so that our children understand that they're supposed to share their thoughts and feelings with us.
Yes.
That's a mindful practice. You know what I'm saying? Getting them to understand, like, you're supposed to be open in your in your communication, and then encouraging them to be mindful in their thoughts. But first, we got to let them have them. They got to have their thoughts. They got to feel free to have their thoughts. Right. And they should be free to share those thoughts so long as they are respectful, right? Like, I remember my friend Earl saying, I give my children freedom within the parameters that I have set. That was like mind blowing for me, because I was like, oh yeah, like, you got all this space, you just got to stay within this space, right? Yeah. Out of bounds is out of bounds. But I'm just saying, but having them, like, if we stop discouraging open communication and then we practice mindfulness where they can stay calm and make better decisions in the challenging situation, we will find that they are much more respectful to us, to their teachers, to all the adult figures, but also to their peers.
Right. Yes. Yes. All of what Ms. Kiana said, I agree. I ain't got nothing to add to that one. I agree.
We ending the show?
I think that's a wrap, but because I truly agree. I truly agree, and that's something that I practice, that I teach. And when it's implemented, when you use it and adjust it, because a lot of people think, oh, that I did it and that didn't work. No, when someone is coming to you and providing you suggestions, it's not going to be specific to what you need, because you are your own person and your child is their own person. So you tweak and adjust as needed. And depending on the situation, the circumstance, it's not going to always look the same. And the implementation is always not going to feel the same as well. You adjust as needed. But overall, that adjustment will allow you to know what your different options that you have, which will also allow your child to learn what options they have. So it comes down to the parent. Model what you're expecting of your children, so that when you say what you said, they have a reference point.
Yep.
They know what to pull from to attempt to use those ways of managing, regulating, communicating, all those things that we've talked about in this topic.
Absolutely. And we want to know your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on teaching respectful behavior? Give us a email, send us an email at therealonparenting@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram at therealonparenting. I think, Danielle, that we have a great opportunity to teach so much information that not that parents haven't thought of, but that like, it's the refresher course for a lot of us, right?
Yes,
because sometimes you learn things and then you understand them later. I really think that that's a great opportunity for this particular show to do. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get the feedback.
Yes, I am as well.
We want it. We want the feedback. All right, you guys, have an amazing week. And until we meet again.
Until we meet again.
Drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and mind your business.